Most people think their relationships fail because of bad timing or the wrong person. But the truth is, a lot of it comes down to something called attachment styles. And once you understand this, you start to see your entire dating history differently. Because the way you love isn't random, it's patterned. There are 4 main attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and fearful avoidant. And each one changes how you connect, how you react, and how you handle relationships. Let's start with the one everyone wants, but not everyone has: secure attachment. A secure person doesn't panic when things feel off. They don't overthink every message, and they don't disappear when things get serious. They're consistent. They can communicate how they feel without turning it into a fight, and they don't see closeness as a threat. They actually feel comfortable with it. When a secure person likes you, you'll know. There's no guessing, no mixed signals, no emotional roller coaster, just stability. Now let's talk about anxious attachment. This is the one that feels everything, just a little too intensely. An anxious person craves closeness. They want reassurance. They want consistency. They want to feel secure in the relationship. But when something feels off, they don't pull away. They lean in. They start asking questions. Are you okay? Did I do something? Why do you feel distant? Not because they want to be difficult, but because they're trying to protect the connection. The problem is, this can come off as pressure, even though it's really just fear of losing someone they care about. Now let's talk about avoidant attachment. This is where things start to clash. An avoidant person values independence, sometimes more than connection. When things get too close, they don't lean in. They pull away. They need space. They need time alone. And when emotions get intense, they shut down. Not because they don't care, but because closeness feels overwhelming. So instead of talking things through, they create distance. Now, here's where things get interesting, because anxious and avoidant types are often drawn to each other. One wants more connection, the other needs more space, and without realizing it, they create a cycle. The anxious person feels distance, so they try harder. The avoidant person feels pressure, so they pull away. And the more this happens, the worse it gets, until both people feel misunderstood. One feels ignored, the other feels overwhelmed, and eventually, the relationship breaks. Now the last one is fearful avoidant. This one is the most confusing because it's a mix of anxious and avoidant. They want love, they crave connection, but at the same time, they're afraid of it, so they pull people in and then push them away. They can be warm one moment and distant the next, and even they don't fully understand why. It's like wanting something, but not feeling safe having it. So what does all of this mean? It means the way you show up in relationships isn't just about the other person. It's about your patterns, your habits, your emotional responses, and most importantly, your awareness. Because once you understand your attachment style, you stop taking everything so personally. You stop chasing people who can't meet you where you are. And you stop confusing inconsistency for connection. Because real connection doesn't feel like anxiety. It doesn't feel like pressure. And it definitely doesn't feel like confusion. It feels stable, clear, and safe. And if you've never experienced that before, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means you haven't found it yet. But understanding this is one thing. Actually seeing how it plays out in real life is another. Now let's make this real, because this isn't just theory. This is how it actually plays out in relationships. Let's say someone takes longer than usual to reply. If you have a secure attachment style, you might notice it, but it doesn't consume you. You assume they're busy, you don't jump to conclusions. If you have an anxious attachment style, that silence feels loud. You start thinking, did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? Why are they acting different? And before you know it, you're checking your phone, rereading messages, trying to figure out what changed. Now, on the avoidant side, that same situation feels completely different. If someone is texting too much or asking too many emotional questions, it can feel overwhelming. You might start thinking, why is this so intense? I need space. This is too much. And instead of explaining that, you just pull back. Not because you don't care, but because it feels like too much at once. And this is where people misunderstand each other. One person thinks, they don't care about me. The other thinks, they're asking for too much. But in reality, both people are just reacting to how they feel inside. You don't just experience this once, you repeat it, because your attachment style doesn't change overnight. So, what happens? An anxious person might leave one avoidant partner, only to end up with another, not because they want to, but because it feels familiar, and familiarity feels like connection, even when it's not healthy. The same goes for avoidant individuals. They might leave someone who wanted too much from them, only to end up with someone who triggers that same feeling again. And now the cycle continues. Different person, same pattern. So how do you know if this is actually happening to you? You feel anxious more than you feel secure. You're constantly trying to fix the relationship. You feel like you're either chasing or being chased. Communication feels confusing. Things are good one moment and distant the next. And most importantly, you feel emotionally drained because you're not just in a relationship, you're in a cycle. So, how do you break it? First, you have to recognize your role in it. Not blame yourself, but understand yourself. If you're anxious, that means learning how to self-soothe. Not every moment of distance means something is wrong, and not every feeling needs to be acted on immediately. If you're avoidant, that means learning how to communicate instead of shutting down. Space is okay, but silence without explanation creates confusion. And if both people aren't willing to grow, then no matter how much you care about each other, it won't work because relationships don't survive on feelings alone. They survive on awareness, effort, and emotional responsibility. At the end of the day, this isn't about labeling yourself, it's about understanding why you react the way you do. Because once you understand that, you stop chasing the wrong things. You stop holding on to people who can't meet you where you are. And you start choosing relationships that actually feel healthy, not intense, not confusing, not exhausting, just stable. And for a lot of people, that's something they've never experienced before.